Good evening, boys and ghouls. You have tuned into the Killer Countdown, brought to you by Backlot 605. Each week, two horror fanatics rank the best that the horror genre has to offer. Grab your popcorn and your kitchen knife and get ready for the Killer Countdown.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Charlie Eccles, the director of SiouxperCon, and I am live on Zoom right now with the boys from Backlot 605. They are going to be doing a live podcast, so I'm going to give them the floor here in just a little bit, but they are going to explain what their countdown is. They're going to explain what their rules are. Real quick, again, we have to give a shout out to Black Hills Federal Credit Union for sponsoring our event. We also have to give a quick shout out to TN Tax, Last Stop, Game Chest, and Firelink Digital Media. Again, we couldn't do this without you guys. Thank you so much for your generous sponsorship here. But we have got something a little different for you guys, a live podcast recording coming out to you from Backlot 605. Gentlemen, I'm going to put myself on mute, and you have the floor.
All right, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final episode of the Killer Countdown podcast, brought to you by Backlot 605. I'm your host for today, Derek Gray, contributing writer for Backlot605.com. And in just a moment, we'll get into the rules here for today's event. But first and foremost, we want to make sure we give a good shout out and plug to Mr. Travis Nye of Spellbound Magic Shop. Once again, has graciously provided us with this venue for us to have today's live podcast in. And we're very grateful for that and very grateful for his technical assistance as well. Just to mention things that Travis has coming up, Travis will be doing a live magic show later today at 4 p.m. also as part of SiouxperCONLINE. And then this month he is doing his brand new magic show, A Magician Among the Spirits, which is being held here at Spellbound Magic Shop on October 10th, 17th, 24th, and 31st. Tickets are on sale now. All right. With that in mind, we don't have much time to work with today, so let's get right into it and introduce today's four participants once again for this final episode of the Killer Countdown podcast. First off, to my left, the co-founder of Backlot 605 and co-host of the Killer Countdown podcast, Mr. Casey Kelderman. Casey, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. I don't know about the rest of the group, especially the one on the end there, Mr. Andy Heller, but I'm doing good. I'm doing great. So let's get this started.
All right. And then to Casey's left is the other founding co-host of the Killer Countdown podcast, also host of the Criterion Break with Andy and Blake, Mr. Blake.
Hey!
How are you doing, Blake?
I'm nervous. Let's do this.
Short and sweet. I like it. Then to Blake's left is the newest host of the Killer Countdown podcast, the cousin Oliver, if you will, who's coming late in the run to save the show right before it goes off the air. Mr. Sam Lenz. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. This is going to be a good time.
Awesome. Very optimistic. Glad to hear that. And then finally, on the very far end of the table here, our special guest for today, from Fat Dude Digs Flicks, Mr. Andy Heller.
Hey, everybody. What's up? I won't do the long intro because we don't have a lot of time. What was the white kid on Different Strokes with the red hair? Was his name Sam?
I don't recall. I never watched that show.
I love Different Strokes. I just don't remember. It's Sam's that kid.
He's Seth Meyers' brother. From
I
the
am excited. I am terrified. I am ready to discuss this wild, wonderful, and awful decade of horror. Wonderful and awful decade of horror, the 1980s.
That's fair.
All right, way to go. All right, quickly, I'm going to run down the rules here for today. So first off, just to let you know, we drew placement for the draft. You can't actually see this in the shot, so I'm actually just going to place it right here above Casey's head. We drew the placements for today's draft about an hour ago. So each participant will have 5 picks, which I will go through as we go through today's proceedings. Each contestant has 1 veto, or in Killer Countdown parlance, a stab, from which if someone picks a movie that the other is not satisfied with, they can use their one and only veto to knock that down. Obviously, since this is a 1980s horror competition, the movie in question has to have been released in the United States within the decade of the 1980s. And finally, we've implemented a rule here today for only allowing one movie per franchise. So if you're hoping that all 8 Friday the 13th from the 1980s would make this list, you are sorely mistaken. Them's the rules, you know. Just like the Rocky rule last time, it's the Friday the 13th rule this time. All right. Any other things that I'm missing, or are we ready to go?
Ready. Let's do this.
All right. Number 20 pick goes to Casey. All right. And with...
I'm going to be implementing the one movie per franchise rule right away.
All right.
I know what this is gonna be.
And with the 20th pick, Casey has delivered 1988's Halloween 4.
Halloween 4. I have teased this for the last 2 weeks that our 3 big horror icons are making this list. And this seems like the right place to have Halloween. So this is the return of Michael Myers. Halloween 3 saw them deviate from the franchise. And now this time Michael is back. He's back with a vengeance. He's coming to take on his niece, Jamie Lloyd, played by the great Danielle Harris. We get to see Dr. Loomis come back. This is one of my favorites in the series. Besides the original Halloween, I think this has the best aesthetic for the season. All the shots are completely autumn feeling. It's a very fall feeling movie. I also think that in the terms of the franchise, Jamie Lloyd is my favorite final girl from this series, as we did in our final girl countdown. I think she is the best in the series at that. It is also a nice little change of pace as Derek breaks our thing. No,
We're doing it live.
we're doing it live. This is a nice break from the traditional final girl aspect because it is an actual child in danger this time. It's not a teenage girl getting chased around by a masked serial killer. So yes, Halloween 4 is my pick here at number 20.
I like Halloween 4. I think out of the 80s sequels that Halloween 3 is definitely the strongest. I do enjoy Danielle Harris in this. But
yeah, I guess we're gonna have the second best Halloween from the 80s on the list. That's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. I'm not gonna stab at this early.
I have bigger fish to fry with you, Casey Kelderman. But this shows me how this list is going to go, and we're going to burn it all down.
This is strategy coming into play here. So yes, that is Halloween 4. One final thing, it also has one of my favorite endings ever that is completely screwed up in the sequel.
Yep, Halloween 5 is the worst of the series. I'll say it.
Okay.
You haven't seen Halloween Resurrection.
Oh, I have. I stand by my statement.
Eerily definitive words. All right. Pick number 19 goes to Blake.
Well, I've decided that the 80s was a pretty wild decade, and I'm gonna play wild. I shuffle my cards. I don't care what the order is. Whatever the order is whatever comes out. So I don't even know what we're gonna talk about.
Oh God!
Do I have to change Blake's nickname from the Contrarian to the Anarchist?
Wild card.
Yes.
All right.
Oh,
All right. With the number 19 pick, Blake has selected Demons.
Demons.
Okay,
1985, Lamberto Bava. I told you we get some Italian stuff on here.
that's a good one.
Won't be the only one.
God, it takes place in Berlin in this movie theater. These people get a sneak preview of a new zombie movie, and the zombies come out of the screen and turn everyone else into the theater into zombies. A group of people have to fight back. They get locked in there. It's just pure 80s. I mean, you got a killer soundtrack with Motley Crue and Billy Idol. There is cocaine being snorted in a car.
To a Billy Idol song.
Yeah, to a Billy Idol song.
Woman's
Off a woman,
bosoms.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's, and like I think overall, like this is like the technical craft is really good. There's a lot of really great shots that like if this was a more famous movie, like people would say like that's an all-time horror shot, and has a really great ending as well. Yeah, I love this movie so much. Glad it's here.
I have done a lot of trash talking about Italian horror films because some of them are not very good. But this one, however, is exceptional. Has really, the ending is fantastic. That final scene, chef's kiss. So yeah, good one. Good one to play.
All right. Number 18 pick, Andy.
I came to play.
Yeah.
I came to play.
With the crease and everything. Awesome. With the number 18 pick, Andy has selected, oh boy, an infamous title here, Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
I have a tendency to, in the final, my bottom picks, to just go with something fun. And what is more
And
fun?
you didn't do that.
Yes, I did. I sure did. I went with Sleepaway Camp, which is just one of my favorites. Like, it is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But the gore is fantastic, and that twist ending as Backlot 605 co-host Brian Mensing reacted with such
Fervor.
with a great non-reaction to that ending. Sleepaway Camp is probably one of my favorite kind of camp slashers of this decade, and that's compared to a very big franchise that I'm not a huge fan of, despite that being on my shirt. Yeah, I just I love this movie. I think it is wild. I think it is bonkers, and I think it kind of sets that tone for just how out there 80s horror was willing to go. Yeah, Sleepaway Camp. That is my my number 18 pick.
I like Sleepaway Camp a lot. I kind of expected it to be on this list, and I'm perfectly okay with it being here.
I should have made a predictions list because this was my prediction for Andy's first pick, no matter where he was.
I can verify that too in case you messaged me. I think he's playing Sleepaway Camp.
Yo,
I did make a predictions list, and I can't wait to check it at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad Andy played this. We gushed about it for 45 minutes, an hour on the Backlot show, and yeah, this is a wild and crazy camp slasher movie. Very different from the other ones though too, because the killer is not a serial killer in a hockey mask or an undead zombie from the woods or an urban legend or anything like that. It's very different in that way. It is also one of the kookiest movies you could ever watch, especially the ant character.
Great zany character.
It was wild. Yeah, this is a staple of 80s horror, and I was expecting it to be on the list.
All right, excellent. And bonus kudos for tiptoeing around the ending on this very family-friendly podcast.
Yep.
5 bonus points to each.
Keeping it PG.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say my favorite line, but now I can't because it is not
Keeping it
PG.
PG.
excellent. All right, number
Yeah, I know what this
17.
is.
Sam Lenz is on the ball here today. With number 17, he has selected from 1987, a film by Joel Schumacher,
Yes.
The Lost Boys.
Wow.
Really? I know, shocker. Here's the thing. The only reason that this isn't being played in the top 10 is because I know that it would get stabbed in the top 10, but it needs to be on this list because it's seminal 80s. Seminal 80s. The hair, the clothes, the songs, the performances, all of it's on point. Kiefer Sutherland has the most amazing mullet in this. His David is one of my favorite horror villains of all time. Cry Little Sister is an absolute jam. I could go on about this movie for an entire podcast. And I won't.
Full confession, we've been dogging you the entire time.
Yeah.
We all love this movie.
Yeah, this movie's great.
We all love this movie.
It's a blast.
Thank you guys so much. You tell me this on live internet.
Oh yeah.
No, this movie's amazing. Like,
No,
it's
it's-
seriously one of my favorites of all time. It never left my DVD player in high school.
That's
Never.
yeah. Lost Boys rules, man.
Yeah.
To steal a line from Blake, this movie's a banger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lost Boys is pretty
Straight
great.
up.
One of our audience members told me, she's like, they're probably just messing with you. And I'm like, no, they're not. They're like serious. I can't believe you guys.
Welcome to the club, man.
Straight up, told you right away. I would not veto Lost Boys if you played it. I was being honest.
Yeah.
I may have added a little asterisk to that, but straight up, I would not veto this movie.
But one thing about it though is we were giving you crap this last month or so about Lost Boys, partially because I did want you to play it first. I don't want it in the top 10. I don't love it that much, but it is a great movie that should be on the top 20 of the decade. We need
Fantastic.
Saxophone guy is like my favorite thing ever in like any 80s horror movie. It's
Guys, we're just
totally
making fun of Saxophone Guy right before we went live.
well, it's nice. It's so cheesy. It's totally Joel Schumacher right there.
Oh,
That's Schumacher at his finest. Yeah, the cast in this is fantastic. There's a little subgenre in horror that we might not talk about after this, is that kids fighting monsters.
Mhm.
And this has one of the best in that with
Yeah.
Corey Feldman and other guy who's probably not done anything since, with the Frog Brothers. So yeah, we need to have that represented on here. I'm worried any other vampire movie from the 80s might not make the list. So glad Lost Boys is here.
Yeah, this is kind of the cornerstone of fun, like slick, stylish 80s vampire movies. It's awesome, Sam.
Yeah.
Sam, this is a great movie. I don't know why you would play it so low.
You know what?
There isn't really, you can veto yourself.
I love you guys. That's all I'll say. I can safely say this now. I love you guys because you love the Lost Boys.
A very heartwarming segment of this episode today, I must say. All right, number 16 pick goes to Andy. And Andy has selected for number 16 from 1986, Toby Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
This is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of my favorite horror movies of all time because it is dirty, it is frightening, it is so just, you feel disgusted by everything that happens. How do you make a sequel to that movie? You make it completely different and add a chainsaw battle between Dennis Hopper, probably coked out of his mind, or I'm sorry, cocained out of his mind. It's PG.
This is actually a movie he
What is
got
the difference
sober.
between-
Yeah. He actually got sober for this movie.
Well, then we know a little bit about Dennis Hopper, don't we? But there's a chainsaw battle between Dennis Hopper and Leatherface. This movie is a blast. I had the privilege to see a 35 millimeter print of this movie a couple of years ago, and it just made it. It's still dirty, it's still gritty, but it's so tongue-in-cheek, fun and ridiculous, which I think is kind of the thing that makes the 80s such an exciting decade for horror, is because they were just willing to go something to the wall with whatever they wanted to do with these sequences. I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is a blast. Really, just a ton of fun, and it has some scares in it, but it's one of those where it's like you're so engaged with the ridiculousness of these characters that it's not going to terrify you, but it is going to just make you go, oh, what? But yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, my number 16 pick.
I watched this one for the first time in prep for this, actually, because I love the original. I love the remake. I just never seen this one, and it was good. I don't think it's as good as the original, but
I like it more than the original.
I do too.
Yeah.
That was my first point. I love this movie.
Yeah.
I was fully expecting Andy to play it because I know Texas Chainsaw, the first one, is one of your favorites ever. And I mean, 2 is what Toby thought people would react to 1 as a comedy, which it is not, even though he likes to say it is. Bill Moseley in this movie, he steals the movie from Leatherface and the entire family.
Yeah.
I think his performance is outstanding in this. I think he's legitimately scary because of how deranged and how crazy he is, but he's also very comedic in that too. The chainsaw fight at the end between Dennis Hopper and Leatherface is what horror dreams are made of. That's what we all love about the genre. I also think Stretch is a great final girl. to have in this, and yeah, I definitely think she's one of the great final girls that we didn't mention in our final girls episode. So
She's fantastic.
yeah, and there's a lot of undertones with her character and Leatherface and their interactions, especially with the chainsaw.
Yeah.
We probably can't say on a PG.
Not on a PG podcast.
Yes.
And that Breakfast Club poster, that's some
Yes.
genius marketing. Genius marketing.
Good stuff.
All right. Since we're at the bottom 5, I just want to recap where we're at thus far. Number 20, we have Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Number 19, we have Demons. 18, the original Sleepaway Camp. 17, The Lost Boys. And number 16, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. All right. For number 15, Blake the randomizer Ginathan.
I wish I knew what this was, but I don't.
All right. For the number 15 pick, Blake has selected Dario Argento's Tenebrae.
Tenebrae is a wild. This movie deserves to be here because it's the only movie I've ever seen where a woman is being murdered in the final scene, and she's screaming, and the movie just goes to the credits, and she's still screaming while the credits play. And I think that's just an incredible, like, horror stamp. You know, the movie's about this guy who. He's a horror novelist, and he has this new book out, and he goes to Rome to promote it. And the entire time, I think it's just women are being killed by this serial killer, and they're like stuffing. He's like the killer's like stuffing pages of his book in the mouths of like the women as he kills, and it's sort of like, oh, is this guy the killer? Like, so he becomes like the prime suspect. And if you know Dario Argento, he's just like this grand master of moving the camera and music and lighting. And I think like he's at the top of his game. This is probably like his second best movie, I'd say. This movie's just incredible. There's where a lion attacks a guy at one point. I mean, it's just all over the place. Yeah, I love this movie.
It is all over the place. the final like 20 minutes or so, good. But it's a nap. It's a nice nap beforehand.
That's nice.
I'll bring the positivity back. If I love Tenebrae, with Blake now playing 2 Italian films, I might be shuffling what I'm playing just to maybe continue this trend. I don't know. But Tenebrae is great. Like Blake said, I think your favorite Argento is Suspiria.
Yep.
From the decade before. This is, because Deep Red was also 70s, which is my favorite Argento. But Tenebrae is right up there. There's this amazing tracking shot where like starts in a window and goes out the house and it goes outside and comes like
It's following people from window to window.
Yeah.
It's just like this big
tremendous
thing.
shot.
All these drums are playing, and it's just incredible. Yeah.
And there's that iconic shot with the knife like going through the sheet and the girls scream right behind
Yeah.
it. It's
It's awesome.
It is awesome.
All right.
I haven't seen this, but
Number 14, Casey.
All right.
Ooh, nice and smooth. All right. For the number 14 pick, Casey has selected, yes, Mr. Brian Usna's Society.
Society. Yeah. One that I think everybody on the panel was predicting I would play.
yeah.
The first time I watched this was about a year ago or so, and the first thing I texted Blake right after, because you had seen it before, was this is a masterpiece. Yeah, I still think it is definitely a masterpiece. What I refer to it as is if David Cronenberg and Jordan Peele had a baby and it was even more demented than what you would think. That's Society. Yeah, Brian Usna, who is definitely known for his partnership with Reanimator director Stuart Gordon
Yep.
did the Reanimator sequels. This is definitely one of the most bonkers endings of any 80s horror movie ever. The last 30-40 minutes is just a wild, goopy ride, and it's gross. It is nasty.
It's disgusting.
Don't eat while you watch it.
Don't eat while you're watching.
Don't eat Chinese food while you watch it.
Or Jello.
Or food.
And you barely want to watch the screen during that. So yeah, Society. It's about this young man who was adopted into this very rich California family and begins to suspect that his family is not what they seem to be. There is definitely hints of I don't even know if I can say it because it is a family show of what the daughter and the parents are doing.
That's close enough, I think.
Yeah, that you can probably pick it up if you're an adult. Yeah, but this is a wild ride, and it's his journey of figuring out what's really going on and what is this society that his parents belong to. And yeah, this has to be on the list for the shunting alone.
I think the last 30 minutes of this movie are incredible. I think the practical effects are great. I just don't think, as a social commentary, it's nearly as clever as it wants to be. It's a great movie. I will give it that, but it's a great movie because of that last act.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the rest of it is prime 80s though.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey,
That's
cool
fair.
guy.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is this kid is supposed to be the everyman, like our entry point into this weird society of rich people, even though he's kind of a 80s yuppie high school prep
Yeah.
with a hot girlfriend. Like, how do we relate to this guy?
Yeah.
You know, that's the only thing, but that's again a staple of the 80s.
Yeah.
So.
All right. With the number 13 pick, Andy.
Oh, okay. I'll give it to you first,
All right.
because I've got some explaining to do.
All right. All right.
Yes, you do.
No, this is a great movie. Okay.
All right. For the number 13 pick, Andy has selected from 1986, David Cronenberg's The Fly.
So we've had a lot of fun movies so far. So let's change that and go with a really depressing horror movie. The Fly is a story of a scientist who is working on a teleportation device. He finally gets to the point where he wants to teleport himself. This is after a night of drunken kind of shame, sadness. So he's like, I guess it's time for me to, it's Jeff Goldblum, for me to teleport myself. So he gets in the teleportation machine, and there just so happens to be a fly in the machine as well. He teleports to the other pod, and it kind of starts to get his genetic makeup askew, and hijinks ensue after that point. I'm playing this one instead of something else that I had on my list that I think is one of my personal favorites.
Same director or what?
No, different,
okay.
different director. But this is, after rewatching it again, this is a better movie than the one that I had to play. I love this movie. This might not be a terrifying movie, as you would say with typical horror movies, but what it gets at, the notion of science being something scary, and it feels like it's a symbol for disease and kind of a
The aging process.
yeah, and the aging process.
Or specifically a disease of the 80s that was prevalent in the 80s.
Yes, it feels
Although
like it's
Cronenberg denies that.
right.
Yeah.
It feels like, but it does feel like it's something that's kind of a standby for AIDS, for cancer, just kind of how the human body decomposes. I love this movie. Great performances from Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis. I just think this movie is exceptional. I would probably put it in the top 10, but I have two other movies that I love more. So I want to play those later. But yeah, The Fly, fantastic motion picture.
I'd argue that Gina Davis almost steals this movie from Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
The final minutes of this movie are absolutely heartbreaking, and it's entirely on her shoulders.
Yeah.
And yeah, I 100% love this movie. It's disgusting, but
Yeah.
the fingernail scene just, yikes.
Any of the puke scenes.
Yeah, that too.
I think all of us agree this is an A+ movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's should be higher, but
Yeah, I'm surprised it's this
I'm
low.
very
But yeah,
surprised
we have probably 12 others that are
I
probably
take
just
pride
as
in
great.
playing it, so that's why it's where it's at. Because I don't know if I can count on it.
I get it. It's part of the game.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna feel weird about playing some of my next picks with The Fly being
Yeah.
here.
But yeah, The Fly is tremendous. It's one of the greats of the decade, and it is everything what we love about the decade with great practical effects. But it is also a social commentary. Has fantastic performances. Like Sam was saying, Gina Davis is award worthy in this movie about a guy decomposing and turning into a fly. Yeah, this is a fantastic film.
And just as a note, this very tragic, heartbreaking movie produced by Mel Brooks. So,
Like the Elephant Man.
yes, of course. All right, Sam has the next 2 picks.
Whoa.
Number 12, Sam has selected from 1983, John Carpenter's Christine.
So when I think 80s, there are 2 names that immediately come to my mind when I think 80s horror. That is Stephen King and that is John Carpenter. And this movie is an amalgamation of the 2 of their very distinct voices. Christine is a movie about kind of this teenage loser. He's not very liked at school. He's bullied. He has one friend in the entire world. And he buys this beat up old 50s car. And it basically possesses him. And it causes him to change into this completely different person. This movie and the book are just one of my all-time favorites. Keith Gordon gives one of, in my opinion, the best horror performances of all time as Arnie, the kid who becomes obsessed with this car. The relationship that he has with this car is like borderline inappropriate. Like it's a romantic relationship with this car. And some of the cinematography in this is Carpenter's best. I think this is one of Carpenter's best scores. Just everything about this movie really hits for me, and I love it. So it's number 12.
Yeah, rewatched this the other night. Love it. Love it. It's a movie that I think it might kind of suffer from the same Stephen Kingism where the ending kind of tapers off a little bit, but the way he builds up these characters and that you care so much about these characters in this horror movie, yeah, it's a great mix of King and Carpenter. So yeah, great movie. Great movie.
Yeah, this isn't one of my favorite Carpenters, or even one of my favorites from this decade. I like Christine. I don't love it. Yeah, the score for this movie though is incredible. It's one of Carpenter's best. Yeah, I grew up on this movie, but again, when I grew up on it, it was Stephen King's Christine than it was John Carpenter's, and I still sort of feel that way. If you take out the Carpenter score, it still feels more King than Carpenter.
I would agree with that.
So, yeah, and like scary cars don't scare me.
Look at that. Alrighty, and Sam gets to round out the bottom 10 with.
You better
We have some chaos.
Yeah, sorry. I hit
Blake
the
is the
wrong
only one that can have chaos in this.
I'll bring it. Don't worry.
one. Here we go. This is the right one.
All right, for number 11, Sam has picked, Night of the Creeps.
Fred Decker's masterpiece. I'm sorry, this movie is just top tier. I know I like this more than probably everybody at this table, but this movie to me is like perfect. It goes from having an alien spaceship in the beginning, launching this tube into Earth, and it starts in the 50s and it moves to the 80s, and there's slugs that turn people into zombies, and there's Tom Atkins as this grizzled like police guy that lost his high school sweetheart, and it just gets insane. It's his best performance. Tom Atkins has never been better, and this whole movie just I can't say enough good about it. All the characters is cheesy, but all the characters are named after horror directors, and it's hilarious. There's so many nods to like 50s and 80s horror that I love it. It's one of my all-time favorites, and I don't know.
How is Tom Atkins the sexiest man the 80s horror produced? Like, how is it like this grizzled, like sometimes mustachioed, sometimes not? Like, yeah, what? Like that guy. How is he?
Because Tom Selleck was on TV there.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. So yeah, this is a fun movie. Like it is. It's a fun movie. If it were perfect though, Sam, I mean, you play it at number 2, but still, it's a lot of fun. I saw this for the first time for this countdown, and I really enjoyed it. So it's fun.
Oh, and watch the director's cut because it's better.
Like,
Yeah, I love this movie.
this is way too high. I like the movie. It's fun. Tom Atkins is easily the best part of this movie. I find the teenagers insufferable in this movie, especially the lead actor who can barely act. Let's just put Tom Atkins and have him shave the mustache and be the teenager. That's fine with me. Yeah.
If Tom Atkins was every role, this movie truly would be perfect.
I would put it at number 1. Yeah, over Lost Boys, Sam. This is.
I know.
We probably shouldn't have messed with him on Lost Boys.
Should mess with him on Night of the Creeps.
But I think I'm going to let it because it is not one pick higher. If it was top 10, I would veto it.
Yeah, that's why I
But it's on
played
the
it
cusp
here
of
because
it.
it doesn't need to be top 10, but I did want it on the list. And I considered swapping Christine Night of the Creeps, but this is just how it played out. So.
Time to redeem it, I guess, huh, Casey?
Well, yeah, cookie crumbles.
All right, and with that, we have filled out the bottom 10 of the top 20 list here. Just to recap, number 20, we have Halloween 4. Number 19, Demons. Number 18, Sleepaway Camp. Number 17, The Lost Boys. Number 16, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Number 15, Tenebrae. Number 14, Society. Number 13, The Fly. Number 12, Christine. And number 11, Night of the Creeps. Just to recap for the audience, none of the 4 players have used their veto yet. We'll see if any of those get broken out here in the top half of this list.
I'm just saying this is our last one. I'm using it.
All right. Before we dig into the top 10, how are you guys feeling about this list so far? Is there any pressure about what has to be accomplished here with these last 10 titles? Any fears, pain, etc.?
No pressure.
I stand by every pick I've played and every pick I am going to play.
We had our fun. Now it's time to get to the good ones.
Let's get down to business.
Let's get down to it. Yeah. I was feeling good until 12 and 11. Now I'm scared what Sam has in his last 2 picks.
Got me
Box of matches in my pocket.
All right, let's get it started then. Number 10, Casey has selected for the 10th best horror movie of the 1980s, Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives.
Oh, you cannot give me crap for Night of the Creeps now. Nope.
It is Friday the 13th, the franchise of the 1980s. Has to be on this list, period. Jason has to be represented. So I picked the best one, Friday the 13th, Part 6. So a quick recap of the series. Obviously, Jason is back as the hockey mask killer. Part 5, they get rid of Jason, have a completely new character. Did not work at all. So the fans were like, all right, bring Jason back. And they do it in the best way possible. The movie starts with Tommy Jarvis, who in the last 2 movies was played by Corey Feldman in 4, and then a different actor in 5. Now is played by a third actor playing Tommy Jarvis this time around. Him and a friend are on their way to make sure Jason is finally dead. They dig his body back up and stab a metal rod through him, and lightning strikes the rod, resurrects him Frankenstein style, a great homage to Universal monster movies. Ends up with Jason killing the friend. Tommy takes off, and then we get the great James Bond opening for this movie with Jason taking the machete and slashing it across the screen with blood dropping. Yeah, this is my favorite of the series. It adds so much to the stakes of this movie. There's actually kids at Camp Crystal Lake for the first time and only time in the series that there's kids actually at a sleepaway camp, which is crazy. Tommy is one of he's what Nancy is to the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. He's what Jamie Lee Curtis is to the Halloween movies. He is the only returning character that actually gets to stand toe-to-toe with Jason. Has some great iconic shots in this movie with a motorhome flipping over and Jason standing on top of it, all badass. There's a great paintball scene.
Bad butt.
Bad butt. Sorry. We got to go PG-13.
PG-13.
I got to keep that. But yeah, this ends with the great Lake of Fire ending and Jason getting the chain wrapped around his neck and the rock on the other side, leaving him down on the bottom of Crystal Lake, a very iconic shot, a very iconic location for Jason Voorhees. So yeah, this is my favorite Friday the 13th movie. We have to have one on the list. If you veto it, I have 7 others to pick from.
I will agree that this is the best of the Friday the 13th movies. What I don't agree with is the fact that a Friday the 13th movie is in the top 10. And I like the Friday the 13th movies more so than these 2.
I have nothing to say here.
I love it for all the reasons you said. Like, I mean, the opening to me is the best part of any of the Friday the 13th movies. It's great. It's a Friday the 13th movie.
It's the best one.
Casey, I know what games you're playing. I'm not stabbing this. But just know, I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
Okay, Dad.
All right, some tenseness there. Anyway, just to recap, Friday the 13th Part 6 is better than The Fly. Apparently. So, all
So
right.
is Night of the
I
Creeps.
got some Brundle puke that I'm working on here.
All right, number 9, Blake. All right. Here we go. Number 9, Blake Griffin has chosen a film by Stuart Gordon, Reanimator.
Oh, Reanimator. Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Where's the
I'm
bride
so
in front
glad
of
you
this?
played this.
Gosh,
This makes
that's
my
the
next pick
90s.
so easier.
Reanimator. I have seen this movie 4 or 5 times, and I really did not like it the first 4 times. And I'm like, I think it's me.
It is.
So I watched it about a month ago, and I was like, yeah, it was me. This crazy, what's it, like a medical student?
Yep, med students.
Herbert West goes to this college, something like that. Goes to some university for medical school where they work with cadavers. He has this serum that can reanimate things, and he decides to test it on people. And soon the corrupt head of the medical classes gets his hands on it, and it turns into like this big battle between this dead medical teacher who lost his head, and his body is roaming around with no head, trying to kill people.
Which makes for some really good comedic moments.
Yeah, and the end of this movie is truly bonkers. Not as bonkers as Society, but still really bloody and gory and a lot of fun. And it stars Jeffrey Combs, who's one of the underrated actors out there, I think.
Yeah.
So I really dig it. Reanimator, complete 180 on it.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's weirdly for me a comfort movie. When all this COVID stuff happened, I think I watched it 4 or 5 times in a month because I just like it that much. I don't know. It gets me. I think Jeffrey Combs is perfect as Herbert West, and it's hilarious. I love it.
Yeah, this one's a blast. I think it's funny because it's like, we are horror fans. And so that you would say, when all of this crazy stuff happened, I needed a comfort movie. And that one was people getting killed and blood and scary things. Not like Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast. We like horror movies. So yeah, no, this is good, really good pick. I'm glad you randomly selected this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Blake, I think, have had many discussions on Reanimator. We felt very differently until we watched this a month ago.
Yeah,
I loved it, and you did not.
And I do like the sequel more than this one, but I
Sequel is great.
know I'm in the vast minority on that one too. It's just totally okay.
Yeah, I love Reanimator. Barbara Crampton is great. She needs to be on this list. Maybe she'll appear again. I don't know. Yeah, Reanimator is fantastic. It's one of the best of the decade. It is also a great mixture of the horror comedy where neither one overshadows the other one. It's just a perfect balance between the two. And yeah, this is a top 10.
Okay.
All right, Sam, you have the number 8 pick.
I'm going with my heart on this one, guys.
All right.
Never works out well for anyone.
And Sam's heart says that the number 8 horror movie from the 1980s is Chopping Mall.
Chopping Mall.
She's back.
I'm sorry. I got the cue from Casey. I'm like, this is the right pick. This is it. This is the one. I'm sorry. Chopping Mall is a phenomenal movie about this group of teenagers who like to have a lot of fun. This is PG. And they decide to stay the night in this high-tech shopping mall with these bots that are security droids. And basically midway through the night, these security droids, all their safety sensors get shut off.
By lightning.
By lightning. And they go haywire and start killing people. And Kelly Maroney who plays the final girl in this, she should have been on our final girls list. She's absolutely great. She goes from this like meek, I don't want to be here, I don't want to do this type of person, like screaming, crying, to like a total bad butt, PG. And like just the last 15 minutes of her facing off against these like killbots, as they're called, is just, it's top tier, man. I love this movie. I know it's cheesy, it's so 80s, but it's another one of my comfort movies. And I love it. I put it on all the time. So
where Sam mentioned he watched Reanimator like 4 times in a month, I think I did that the first time I ever watched Chopping Mall.
it's so good.
Yeah, I've watched it probably 6 or 7 times in the last year. Like, it's in breezy 100 or an hour 10, hour 20. It's super easy to watch.
It's available on Shudder.
It is.
And it's worth the price of Shudder alone.
Chopping Mall, where shopping costs you an arm and a leg.
Yes.
The poster is nothing like the movie.
No.
Lets you think that this like android cyborg is going to come kill all these kids and put their body parts in body bags. No, it's just robots that blow people's heads off. I don't know if we'll have another head exploding scene, so at least we get one here. Yeah, Chopping Mall is fantastic, pure 80s. This movie could not happen in any other decade.
No.
Yeah, and we get Dick Miller for the first time
Mm-hmm.
on the list.
Blake, do you have anything to say?
I actually predicted this was going to happen.
Up here?
Not this high, but I mean,
Well, I mean,
I knew Sam loved this movie.
it could have happened, but there's a part where common sense takes over. And
You can
like,
stab it. I've got others.
no. Casey has number 1.
No, this movie's a lot of fun. I mean, like,
I told you guys.
Part of this list needs to be like, it needs to encapsulate the 80s,
Yeah,
and this
yeah.
movie is what the 80s
Oh, yeah.
was.
It's
So.
I told you guys, I'm going for fun movies on this list.
Well, time to bring
I
that
leave
fun
the
down.
depressing shit to you later, Andy. I need
What?
stuff.
No, I'll be the depressing one. That's okay.
I put no depressing stuff.
No, I have.
You should write
Not
this
yet,
down.
anyways.
All right, let's see what Andy gives us here for the number 7 pick. Andy has given us from 1987, Clive Barker's Hellraiser.
I love Hellraiser. I rewatched it again the other day. Hellraiser is the story of this. There's a couple, and the wife is, the wife is having an affair with her husband's brother, and then this brother is fascinated with like just the idea to have all of these sensations, and he finds this puzzle box, and the puzzle box, when opened, opens up a gateway to this other dimension of like people who the cross between the sensation of pain and pleasure have no boundaries anymore, and you are just destroyed by these creatures. And the brother gets destroyed. Well, somehow, due to the blood of his brother like hitting the floor, he comes back to life and has to drain the blood and flesh of other people so that he can be alive and run away from these Cenobites, but like the gatekeepers of this other dimension. This is a bloody, gory, twisted creation. Like this movie, I love this movie for the character design. It's a very simple plot. Everything that happens here is very kind of like, oh, okay, we got to get away from this. But it is just wild. It is just wild. These characters are wild looking. You've got Pinhead, who of course has all of these needles sticking out of his head. You've got the Chomper, whose mouth is stretched wide open. You see the chattering teeth. There's the giant kind of chubby guy who's got these like sunglasses, makes him look like Strong Guy from the X-Men. That was a 1990s X-Men character with a little curly Q on the top. And then the kind of feminine Cenobite, which just has these hooks kind of out of her face. Yeah, this is I kind of want to say an underrated one of the murderous characters of the 80s, these Cenobite characters, but it is a dark, just seedy film that I really, really appreciate. I wanted to get it on the list, and I'll stick with number 7. I think that's an okay spot for it.
Yeah, as someone who is like, I don't do well with needles, Pinhead to me is one of the most terrifying characters in horror, because just the whole design of it already gives me chills. And then the places, I've only ever seen the first Hellraiser, but the places that movie goes, I haven't watched it in a while because it's heavy.
Yeah.
You know, it is.
Yeah.
It's a good movie though.
Yeah, I love this movie.
Yeah.
I love the second one more.
Yeah.
I think the brutality in it is way harsher than this one,
Mhm.
but this is the iconic one, and I think we're all in agreement that it's really good.
Yeah, this is a lean, mean, dirty film. It pulls no punches at all. We talk about like pretty much all the other like slasher movies of this time are really fun.
Yeah.
This one's not fun at all. Yeah, this is a dark, depressing movie. The look of it just makes you feel nasty watching it.
Yeah.
I think I'm with Blake where I like the second one more. But yeah, this is the iconic one to put on this list. And yeah, number 7's a great spot for Hellraiser. And a great score.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's one of our Killer Countdown best scores.
It is. Yeah.
All right, Casey, you have number 6.
Nice. All right, this is my last pick before number 1.
Yes.
He's got his veto ready.
This is, even though Sam played Chopping Mall at 8, which I do love, but I think that is high. I trust Sam to play something at number 2, so I don't have to play it low at number 6. So,
All right.
no
Casey-
pressure, Sam.
I don't know what movie you're talking about.
All right. Casey has selected for number 6 from 1981, John Landis's An American Werewolf in London.
American Werewolf in London, the best werewolf movie ever made. Yeah, it is about these two friends, two American friends taking a trip overseas. Basically, one of them gets attacked by this dog creature, this werewolf. One of the friends gets mutilated and is killed by the werewolf. The other one begins transforming into one. What I love about this movie is that we have great characters throughout. There's a great dynamic between the two friends in this movie. I think the practical effects are astounding in this movie. Not only from the werewolf itself, from it's the Rick Baker effects. The transformation scene of him turning into the werewolf is very iconic. I love that it is all in daylight and it is just showing every little bit of this guy transforming into a werewolf. But what is also great, it has I think it's one of the best looking like zombie type creatures in this movie with the best friend.
Yeah.
Just the way he shows up throughout the movie and he's constantly decomposing each time you see him.
Yeah.
He's also very funny, their interactions between the two. I absolutely love werewolf movies. This is my favorite one. One of my favorite John Landis movies, if not my favorite. This is definitely has to be in. I wanted this in the top 10. I know some of the people on this panel may have different feelings on it, but I'm hoping others will agree with me that this is definitely a top 10 film and one of the best of the decade.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I actually just watched this one for the first time earlier this year. I didn't find it funny, weirdly enough. Like
Because it's not.
That's definitely.
It's
I think that might be one thing Blake has had a problem
Yeah.
with is always defined as a horror comedy.
Yeah, and
It's not a horror comedy. It's comedic aspects, but it's a horror. Film.
It's very much a horror film, and it's very. I mean, it's harrowing at the ending. Like, I mean, the ending is one of the. It's the Fly type ending. Or I guess The Fly is an American Werewolf type ending. No, I love it. The Rick Baker effects, like he's known for his werewolf stuff. And it works here. And I don't really have anything to add. The tube scene is one of the most intense scenes in any horror movie of all time. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, I love this movie. I watched it again last night and was considering putting it on mine, but I just had some other stuff that won out. But yeah, I love this movie. I think it is funny. Like I do. I think it's funny. I think the relationship between Griffin Dunn and David Naughton are just they have a great established relationship, and they're those friends that throw darts at each other even when one's dead. I think this movie's great. I'm really glad to see it on the list. I was kind of worried for a second that it might not make it, but way to go, Casey. Good. You totally redeemed yourself.
I haven't number one yet.
I know. So take that away.
All right. Definitely a movie I was rooting to see on this list too. I'm happy with its placement. And that brings us to the top 5, which we have powered through very quickly here. Just as a time notice, we're only at 155. So we have
Oh, plenty of
So
time.
let's
Okay.
spend some time on the top 5.
Yeah,
Good
for
times.
sure.
Yoga stretch.
This
Ju-
gives me time to think about what I'm gonna play.
Just to recap, while I give these folks time to think, number 20 is Halloween 4, number 19, Demons, number 18, Sleepaway Camp, number 17, The Lost Boys, number 16, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, number 15, Tenebrae, number 14, Society, number 13, The Fly, number 12, Christine, number 11, Night of the Creeps, number 10, Friday the 13th, Part 6, number 9, Reanimator, number 8, Chopping Mall, number 7, Hellraiser, and number 6, An American Werewolf in London.
Where did Charlie play the 6th day at? On do you
Like
guys remember?
15
It was like
Okay.
16.
Right,
16. It was 16.
Charlie.
It was 16.
Chopping Mall might be a little more egregious.
Oh.
I stand by it.
Yeah.
Solidarity, Charlie.
Just gotta keep messing with Sam and Charlie.
Well,
Thanks, Sam. Sam's my only friend out of this whole thing, guys. Thanks.
all right, let's begin the top 5 here. And Blake has the 4th and 5th picks due to the logic. So,
You got,
Well,
no, you got good spots.
you ready?
Yeah.
I have no idea what this
Gonna
is.
light it up.
all right.
Chew in the top 5.
All right. Number 5 pick from Blake from 1983, David Cronenberg's Videodrome.
Videodrome. So I have like a subgenre of movies called like shower movies, and to explain what a shower movie is when you watch a movie, you need to take a shower afterwards. I forgot to mention this. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is there.
Yep.
So is Hellraiser.
Society should be.
Society, yeah. And so is Videodrome. Videodrome came out in '83, kind of like, I think this was sort of when like VHS was becoming a thing. And it's about this guy named Max Wren, who's played by James Woods. He runs like this small Canadian, like sleazy not news station, but like channel where they try to get the worst, like clickbaity type stuff for people to watch. They're slowly like starting to pick up viewership, and so him and this guy that he has like a programmer. They're always looking for the new like hot, like envelope pushing thing that they can show, and he gets whiff of this thing called Videodrome, that unbeknownst to him is essentially a snuff channel. He thinks it's all an act. His girlfriend, played by Deborah Harry, the lead singer of Blondie, decides that she wants to go try out for Videodrome, and she does, and she gets killed. Spoilers, but and then some really nasty stuff starts happening. His brain becomes warped. He starts to see things, like any great David Cronenberg movie. His body starts to become mutilated. I don't know how to describe what happens to him without going past PG-13. His stomach can split open, and he can store stuff in there and pull stuff out, and it becomes really ugly and grotesque. I think this movie should be on the list because if you grew up in the 80s, there was like a time where you found VHS tapes you shouldn't be watching, and you go to your parents' room and you find like R-rated movies that they didn't want you to watch, and you go find it, you pop it in, and like this feels like you found that tape on like in your parents' room. Like it has that whole feeling like you're watching, like looking over your shoulder. And of course, like any David Cronenberg movie, it ends up becoming like ultra grotesque by the end of while it ends. I just think this movie's a masterpiece. I love this movie.
Yeah, this is one that last night, as I was laying down to go to bed, I was like, you know what would have been a good one to rewatch for this countdown? It would have been really good to rewatch Videodrome. And then I fell asleep. But yeah, Cronenberg is a master of kind of the dark side of the dark side of society, and how he can just push that darkness even further. Oof, yeah, this is a great one. The Criterion case is also designed like a videotape, which, you know, when you were talking about how it's like watching something you shouldn't be watching, it's exactly how it feels. But yeah, this is a good choice.
I watched the wrong Cronenberg movies, clearly. I watched The Dead Zone, and I have not seen Videodrome, but it sounds amazing. Gonna check it out.
Yeah, the two millennials won't be adding much to a VHS movie. I have not watched Videodrome either. This is one I just did not get to for this, and yeah, I've heard nothing but great things, and obviously I trust you two with your judgments.
Yeah, I can't really veto a movie I haven't seen. So
Yeah, I was expecting this to be on the list. I just did not, unfortunately, get watched for it. So yeah.
Nothing else to say.
All right. And just as a note, Cronenberg is now the first director to have 2 movies on this top 20 list. If I play my cards, hopefully he won't be the last. Hint, hint. All right. Blake also has the number 4.
This one might be controversial. So,
well, we still have a bunch of vetoes here. Oh boy. Number 4 from 1987. Alan Parker's Angel Heart.
Oh wow!
Angel Heart, not a full-on horror movie. It sort of toes the line before, like imagine like you're at a pool, and you don't like jumping into the water because it's cold. You know, you want that like shock. Like you're slowly dipping your toes one at a time. That's what Angel Heart does for most of this movie, and then at the end it fully jumps in. Angel Heart is about this private detective played by Mickey Rourke, who, gosh, I just wish we got more Mickey Rourke movies. He plays a private eye, Harry Angel, who is summoned by Robert De Niro, who has never been creepier, I don't think. He has fingernails this long, his hair tied back, he walks with a cane. Ultra creepy Robert De Niro to find a missing person. And so Mickey Rourke goes on this mission to find this guy who he doesn't know who he is, and it leads him to, I believe it's New Orleans.
Yeah.
I think he goes to New Orleans, and all of a sudden, like, weird stuff starts to happen where like voodoo comes into play. He meets a psychic who sort of maybe gives him hints about what could be happening. He meets Lisa Bonet, who is hot off of the Cosby Show. In fact, this movie got her fired from the Cosby Show. She has a pretty salacious scene with Mickey Rourke at the end, which even by today's standards is quite shocking.
I learned a lot about myself in that scene.
And I don't want to go too much further because what happens to Mickey Rourke and what he discovers is quite evil, I should say. There's a constant motif in this movie of like an elevator, like one of those old style like elevators in a factory with the doors that slam shut. You can see through, and they have the wood poles and stuff. There's a motif of that constantly happening with like the shadows moving as it moves down from floor to floor. And the very last shot, even after the end credits, is this elevator door shutting. I love stuff like that. Like I said, this doesn't like quite go full into horror, but the last 15 minutes, Alan Parker just really goes for it, amps up all like the sound design and the imagery of like blood and animals and lots of fast-paced cutting. But yeah, it's quite the wild ride, and the discovery that Mickey Rourke makes is like, I want to compare it to another movie, but I think it would give it away with what happens, so I won't. But his discovery is quite sad. So, Angel Heart.
Yeah. I got a feeling that maybe there are two people on the panel that haven't seen this movie.
I'm not gonna lie. Before he played this, I hadn't even heard of this movie. Like, I don't know if that's gonna make the internet hate me, but I haven't.
One of the things that I think that when you guys organize these countdowns, that I think it does really, really well, is it provides the opportunity for people who have not heard of certain movies to learn about certain movies. This is one that is really cool that you played, because I think this is one that needs an audience. This is a wild movie. I would consider this a shower movie in a sense.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah.
I can see that.
Because it's unsettling. But I gotta say, like Lisa Bonet in this movie, like I learned just how great childhood crushes are, because man, she is incredible in this motion picture. But yeah, Angel Heart is dark. De Niro is fantastic. Mickey Rourke is fantastic. Lisa Bonet is fantastic. It's just an exceptional movie. It's really cool that you played this one. This is a fun. It's not a fun movie, but a really fun pick that I'm excited to see on this list.
Hey guys, I don't mean to interrupt you here, but you do have a comment from Mr. Andre Handy, who said, he would like to say, can someone stab Blake's last pick for me out of spite?
Chip is rare.
Clearly a big Bill Cosby fan.
Let's hold on to that comment. Andy, is this a horror movie? He paused.
Hold on.
Veto.
Hold on. So here's my thought. As someone who loudly trumpets that Silence of the Lambs is a horror film, I think this is in that suspense kind of unsettling place where human horror can go. I think this is a human horror film. So I consider it a horror movie.
I'm vetoing this. One, I don't want to play the card that I've never watched it, because I never have watched it. But on that note, we are in the top 5. This should be a title people have heard of. You guys made a great point of we need to have new discoveries and get those words out. We got the word out. It's just not making the list. So,
So do me a favor tonight. When you're not rewatching this podcast, watch Angel Heart.
Oh,
Fair enough. Go rewatch this. This is really good so far.
All right. What a tumultuous event here. I'm sure Mickey Rourke's going to show up here any minute to be outraged. But Blake has come up with his substitute pick, and I think there'll be a bit more consensus on this, from 1987 as well. Catherine Bigelow's Near Dark.
Near Dark, the greatest vampire movie ever made. Catherine Bigelow has made tremendous movie after tremendous movie. This isn't as good as Angel Heart, but I guess it could stay here. Near Dark is about, I think is it Adrian Pasdar, I think is the main star. He plays like this farm kid who, he's like a rebel, but he lives out in the country with his family. So it's sort of like out of place. And he ends up meeting this girl who he really sort of crushes on. And it turns out she's a vampire. And he's sort of dealing with all these things after she bites him. You know, he doesn't know what's happening to him. There's this tremendous sequence where he is running down like this field and he's on fire, and they sort of like come pick him up and throw him in this van. I think Jeanette Goldstein, who's a James Cameron stalwart, is in this. Lance Henriksen is sort of like the leader of the whole thing. Bill Paxton is another one. And it's like this clan that, you know, they've been together for hundreds of years. They just sort of traverse the country, sort of feeding off people. I love the locations. It has one of the all-time great bar sequences where the vampires come into a bar and just annihilate everyone. Yeah, I love Near Dark. It's great.
This is the only movie on the list that I have not seen. And I
It's a
hate
hard
that
one to
because
track
it was one that I wanted to watch for this countdown and just didn't get around to.
Am I on a podcast with horror fans, or who am I here with?
Oh! If you want to talk, do you want to look at Just Watch for Near Dark? On Just Watch for Near Dark, there's like nothing. You can't find it anywhere.
I'll defend the other two. I have not watched this either, but it is nearly impossible to find unless you own the copy. So,
I have heard of it.
I know.
I know of it. Yes.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
reputation.
It's reputation.
Yes.
Yeah, we need Bill Paxton on the list too. It's like the Arnie and Sly countdown. We need some Bill Paxton in there. So, yeah, I have heard nothing again but great things about this. Yeah, I've not watched it yet. It is very hard to find, but in the years that I've loved horror movies, this has been
The past year.
yeah, just this last year. This has been one of those like the brass rings you're always reaching for. You're always trying to watch this.
I check Last Stop's online catalog almost monthly to see if this has come in, but no one's willing to give it up, I guess.
Because they know it's a great movie.
Yeah. That's usually a good sign.
Do we just need to hold a viewing party and I can bring over my Twilight Edition
Yes.
Blu-ray of
Yes.
this movie?
Yeah, I feel
Let's
like
do
that's
it.
what's gonna happen.
All right. Last three picks. Andy knows what he's doing for number 3. Let's see where this goes. All right.
Hold up, before you do that here, Derek, we do have another comment from Mr. Corey Jacobson. Himself would like to say something here. He says they have not seen Near Dark. I will take the place of all 3. I will just play musical Zoom chairs. I will be Andy, Casey, and Sam.
No. It's not fair, Corey.
You can pull it off. I mean,
Corey.
it's Corey.
Yeah.
Corey will be happy at number 1 when I play Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh man, I'm getting my veto ready.
All right. Andy has selected for number
I
3
saw John Carpenter, I think.
from 1982, John Carpenter's The Thing.
Is anybody surprised by this? Anybody?
I've never even heard of this movie before.
No.
What is
I've
John
never-
Carpenter's The Thing?
Is this supposed
Is
to
he
be
a
a
carpenter?
classic or what?
So, all right. So John Carpenter's The Thing. I think this is one of the greatest horror movies of all time. I think it's a great sci-fi horror. Story is these explorers are in the Antarctic and they're scientists and researchers and doing all of this great stuff. Well, they come upon somehow this. I'm getting Jeff Goldblum. I'm getting too Goldblum here. Anyway, so basically, there's an evil force that is able to completely take on the shape and movements and everything to recreate someone from the group. And they don't know who it is at any given moment who is being duplicated. And it's a story of paranoia and terror, and there's great body horror, and it's an awesome mixture of science fiction and horror, and it's a remake of a movie from the 1950s that I think, like, as great as the original is, I feel like this one just pushes it up over the edge. I love this movie. We're in an era right now where, I mean, they're starting to come back to the thing of showing movies in theaters. Who knows if that's going to stay, if they're going to close more theaters down again. But initially, when they released their lineup of movies that they were going to play in the theaters, this was one that they had listed. And I was like, you know what? I will go back to the theater to see The Thing on the big screen. And I don't think it ever actually showed up here, so I didn't get that chance. But yeah, I think this movie is excellent. It is driven by a phenomenal performance by the great Kurt Russell. I think Kurt Russell is the showman of the 1980s. Of like, he is the action hero. He is the man. Kurt Russell is fantastic in this movie. You also get Wilford Brimley, who is just, you know,
He's Wilford Brimley.
he's Wilford Brimley.
R.I.P.
Yeah, but yeah, I love this movie. I was hoping that somehow I could muster a number 1 and get to play The Thing at number 1, but I am very satisfied as of right now at least, that it is in the top 3.
Yeah, I love this movie. This is Carpenter's second best, and it's Kurt Russell's absolute best. It's tense. It's so different than his others. I think part of it is the score being partially composed by Ennio Morricone. Yeah, and it just, man, this thing is tense. It is bleak. That ending is just, it's a gut punch, you know. And yeah, I don't think Kurt Russell's ever been better. This movie is phenomenal in every way. It's perfect.
I have nothing to add. I mean,
I wish it was higher even, but yeah.
what's better than The Thing? Like for John Carpenter.
Halloween.
Okay.
Well,
Sorry,
I'll put out a maybe more egregious statement. It's not my favorite Carpenter and Kurt Russell either.
Okay.
Ooh, which one?
Okay.
They're
Big Trouble.
Yeah.
Big Trouble.
Big Trouble is a lot of fun.
But I love that. I mean, Carpenter has
Big Trouble
Carpenter
here.
has like 5 A+ movies. So like,
Carpenter only has A+ movies.
yeah, even vampires A+.
Well,
But The Thing is tremendous. It's one of the great horror movies of the 80s. One of the great horror movies of all time. Everything Andy said is spot on. But again, the practical effects in this movie, it's just a great showcase of what the 80s was all about. Great practical effects. The creature, like what makes this so great is it's not the same creature every time you see it. It's different every single time, and it's just like Society. It's just nasty, but it's every 15 minutes something nasty happens. Kurt Russell's tremendous. Has a bunch of great lines. One of my favorites ever is one we cannot say on this show. I'll just say, you got to be kidding me. But yeah, The Thing is tremendous. When we got here to 3 with Andy's pick, I was not expecting The Thing.
oh,
And now I'm interested to see where Sam's going to go with his, because I think we have
I'm not gonna
all-timers that will be missing from this list now.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll just be honest and say, like, I don't trust Casey to play this at number 1, so I'm gonna play it at number 2.
All right. For number 2, Sam has played from 1980, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
So Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. I mean, what is there to say about this movie that hasn't been said before? It's got a gonzo Jack Nicholson performance. It's tense. It's eerie. It's a 2.5-hour movie that flies by. Like this is one of them that, like you said, I snuck out of my parents' VHS collection, and I still have that VHS. And this was one that I would show to literally every one of my friends. Like when my cousins would come over, I'd be like, "You've got to see this movie." I got to see it in 4K on the big screen last year before Dr. Sleep came out.
I think a bunch of us did.
Yes.
I know. I'm actually pretty certain that we were at the same screening.
And it's coming back to theaters in a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm going to see it again. Like, that's how much I love this movie. I don't think that there has ever been a child performance in a horror movie that's quite as effective as Danny Torrance in this. The actor's name loses me. Is that another Danny?
Danny Lloyd?
Danny Lloyd.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I think it's Danny Lloyd. Yep. And just there's so much iconography from this movie, from Red Rum to just the maze, the ballroom.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
The bear,
Someone help me here.
so much.
the lady in the
Keep
bathtub,
going.
How about the labyrinth?
the labyrinth,
Keep going.
The red bathroom.
the red bathroom. Yeah.
No, someone still hasn't said it
The
yet.
elevator.
The elevator.
Oh, the elevator. Yes. Yeah. So that's what I
Just
mean.
that we
Though.
kept going,
Yeah,
then.
that's just that we kept
Yeah.
going. There's literally so much in this movie that is
Yeah.
just like it's imprinted in your brain, and it's iconic. It's made ripples in movies all the way to today. Like, I mean, movies still rip off The Shining or pay homage to The Shining.
Or literally
Yeah.
reshoot scenes for it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm shocked that Dr. Sleep, with as much as this movie is in the public consciousness, I'm shocked that Dr. Sleep didn't do as well, honestly.
That'll be a decade discovery, I think.
Yeah, it will be. Much
like
like
this-
this one
like
was.
this movie.
Yeah, because no one saw this when it was in theaters, but now it's turned into this thing where it's just this it's this iconic movie, and honestly, it was my number one, but I got the number 2 spot, so I'm playing it here. Because I don't trust Casey.
It's crazy to me that when we decided to do this countdown, my brain didn't instantly go to The Shining, and that's not one that I was super excited to play. I love The Shining. I think The Shining is fantastic. It's from one of the greatest, kind of most demanding directors of all time, but it is an exceptional film that, really has, over the last 40 years, become something spectacular. So absolutely deserving to be on this list, and as high as it is, I think it deserves that spot.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest movies ever made, period. But when you think of the 80s, much like what Andy said, I don't think of The Shining. It feels very 70s to me, and that's why I was worried it might not make the list. And when Andy played The Thing at 3, I was kind of expecting it to not make the list, but I'm glad it is here. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. Jack Nicholson's performance is probably the greatest in any horror movie in my eyes.
Have we talked about Shelley Duvall at all?
No, but she's incredible. But
Scatman Crothers is great too.
Scatman Crothers is great.
Shelley Duvall gives one and the sad thing about that is you don't know how much of it is actual performance and how much she was actually experiencing on that set. But she is phenomenal in that movie. She is absolutely phenomenal. And as a Stephen King fan, it is a little I have a weird relationship with this movie because it isn't anything like the book. And I think that's why I like Dr. Sleep so much, is that it allowed me to see this movie kind of connect into King's voice as well. And it almost
oddly enough, Dr. Sleep makes a perfect movie even more perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
And the big thing with The Shining, obviously, with King is King hates this movie. But now I think with Dr. Sleep merging the movie, the book, and the sequel to the book, perfect amalgamation with Dr. Sleep. But The Shining is one of the greatest movies ever. One of the scariest shots of any horror movie is in this is when Danny and Wendy are outside playing, and it just slowly zooms in on Jack, just staring with these dead eyes outside. He's not saying or doing anything. He's just looking out the window at them. It's terrifying.
It's that classic Kubrick shot of the character's head tilted towards the camera while it comes in. Yeah.
The way Jack,
it's so terrifying.
And then
faces.
The scene with him at the bar is tremendous. It's some of the great acting of all time. Jack is kind of just hamming it up, but it works totally in the tone of this movie.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the stuff King has a problem with, us fans don't have, because we're not connected like he is. But The Shining, we could go on and on about The Shining.
It's a whole hour and a half podcast on its own, honestly.
And the documentary about the conspiracies with the movie,
that's
Room 237, that's a great
documentary.
Again, makes the movie even better if you look at it in different ways. So,
All right, here we go.
I don't know what Casey's gonna play. I really don't.
Oh boy.
Hey guys, Corey has one more comment here for you. He just threw this in. He said, "You know what is both right and just, Casey? You are my only hope."
Oh, Corey, don't put pressure on me like that, because I know which one you're talking about. And you and I love to sing that song, but we're not singing it today.
All right. As the number one horror movie of the 1980s, Casey has selected from 1987, Sam Raimi's Evil Dead 2: Dead by Dawn.
Why were you guys so worried?
I was worried you were gonna play Dream Warriors. I'm not gonna lie. I was worried.
Oh, that was
really.
You should have been worried. That was my other pick. Evil Dead 2 is one of my favorite movies ever. It is probably my favorite directed movie ever. I think Sam Raimi is just he's a god of filmmakers in my eyes. But Evil Dead 2, basically a light remake of the first Evil Dead, except this time Ash is going back to the cabin with a completely different actress. But if you watch the series, it kind of makes Ash it makes this a little funnier because it's believed that Ash just didn't think the first movie happened and is now taking another girl there because he's a complete idiot, which makes this movie even funnier. He takes her out there. Basically, he starts playing this recorded taping of this, I believe he's like a scientist, or he's basically studying this Book of the Dead. And when he plays it, it plays recorded readings from the book and unleashes these monsters, these deadites from the forest, and they come in, take his girlfriend, kill her, possess her. He has to then do what Ash Williams does best. He has to kill the deadite that is inside her. He does so, chops her head off, buries her. She comes back as this weird stop motion character and starts dancing, and then her head starts attacking him. He has to take a chainsaw and
this is all in like the first.
This
like,
is the first
what,
10 minutes
10,
of the movie.
minutes, yeah.
Basically a complete remake of the first movie in 10 minutes. And it's nonstop after that. Basically what happens throughout the movie is the daughter of the scientist character who was studying the book, she's coming to meet her dad there. She's along the way, she meets this kind of redneck guy who was like out there working on the bridge that has collapsed earlier in the movie, also with his girlfriend type character. But yeah, they all show up at the cabin. Ash has by this point gone completely deranged and is
the hand.
So there's so many different things in this movie. He fights his hand in a very comedic fashion, very Three Stooges fashion in that. We get the iconic moment where he has to chainsaw his hand off and there's just blood gushing all over his face. This is a perfect movie in my eyes. Great practical effects, fantastic leading performance by Bruce Campbell. This is why we all love him. It's because of this movie here is where that all starts. So many iconic one-liners in this movie. Obviously, groovy is the big catchphrase that Bruce Campbell has kept throughout all these years.
That line gives me, when he says it, it gives me legit chills.
It does.
It's so good, yeah.
The first time I watched this movie, because I knew of the iconic look of Ash Williams with the boomstick and the chainsaw on his arm. And so I was going through both movies for the first time watching them in high school. I'm like, where's the chainsaw? Where's the gun? Like, where's the shotgun? What's going on? But when it builds up to that, now knowing all this in your consciousness, and it builds up to that and just the slow zoom on his face, and he just says groovy. You're like, yeah fist pump in the air. And it goes into, this whole movie is like a climax of like what society is. This is the entire runtime of Evil Dead 2 is that type of energy throughout the movie.
It goes 0 to 60 and it does not stop the entire time.
It has maybe my favorite one-liner ever. Is when the deadite is yelling, swallow your soul, and he puts the shotgun in his mouth and says, swallow this. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. Evil Dead 2.
Yep. 100% agree. 100% agree. Don't even take it off. No. Let me talk about it first. Bruce Campbell in this. This is one of the best performances we've gotten in any movie ever. Like, it is. It's iconic. This movie doesn't work without Bruce Campbell. And Bruce Campbell sells every zany Three Stooges inspired minute of it. This was a first time watch for me this year. I watched it earlier this year, and I've watched it 3 times in the last 3 months because I put it on when I do dishes. I mean, it's literally just the best.
You accidentally start bashing him on your head.
This movie is so good. I hope you don't stab it.
What's it like in your house, Sam? I'm feeling really depressed. Let me watch Night of the Creeps. I gotta do some dishes. Evil Dead 2, sure, why not? I'm not gonna stab this movie. I will just say this. This is a fun movie. Oh, but number one.
I don't know what you were expecting to be number one.
I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting either. But I like this movie. I think it's a blast. I really feel like I'm probably the least appreciative of the Sam Raimi oeuvre of this group, but that's not to say that I dislike him. I think this is a blast. I think it's a fun one. I think this one and Army of Darkness need to be viewed back to back and just absorbed and enjoyed, because I love those two. But yeah, it's a fun pick for number one. I think the movie snobbery in me is like, oh, but we could have played this at number one. But yeah, this works. It's good. That's a definite Casey bookend there.
And like one of my favorite scenes in this, but I just want to bring up one more, is when everything becomes animated in the house, like the deer head on the wall, the lamp, and then Bruce is just dancing up and down with it. It's just him with a bunch of inanimate objects dancing, and he's going mad. It's amazing.
That scene is just, as you would say.
It's peak cinema.
Like,
that scene alone deserves a golden avocado.
I find it funny, Casey, 3 out of your 5 picks are sequels on this thing. I'm surprised it wasn't 4 out of 5, to be honest.
We are missing a sequel on this, so.
Yeah, we're missing.
Your thoughts?
I'm with Andy. I don't love this movie. I think it's fine. But my favorite part of it is if you've seen the first Evil Dead, you'll know that there's this sort of, I don't want to say invented, but sort of popularized this whole thing where the camera's zooming through the forest over stuff, and it's this loud and it keeps cutting back and forth, and the cabin stuff, and this camera zooming in. And I love that this movie sort of makes fun of that by doing that, where it zooms through the house and then it gets lost in the house. And it's the camera's like, what? Where did he go? And then he has to go. And I love that there's they went all in on not only kind of remaking the first, but just sort of poking fun of how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
But it is the best of the series.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And in my eyes, it's the greatest horror series ever. There's no question about it. There's not a bad one in the series, including the television show. There's no bad one, and the remake. Everything is great about this series.
Yeah. That's a different show, I guess.
We already did that show.
What's that?
The Evil Dead show.
No, I'm saying the best horror franchise.
Oh, well, we already have it inside number one. So.
All right. That was a thrill ride. Just to recap here quick, we'll just run down the full list real quick. 20 Halloween 4, 19 Demons, 18 Sleepaway Camp, 17 Lost Boys, 16 TCM2, 15 Tenebrae, 14 Society, 13 The Fly, 12 Christine, 11 Night of the Creeps, 10 Friday the 13th Part 6, 9 Reanimator, 8 Chopping Mall, 7 Hellraiser, 6 American Werewolf in London, 5 Videodrome, 4 Near Dark, 3 The Thing, 2 The Shining, 1 Evil Dead 2. That is a list.
Yeah.
I will say,
My number 8 pick is inspired. I don't know who did that one, but
I will say I'm kind of surprised that, for all of Casey's gloating about Freddy and Jason and Michael are going to make this list.
I should have trusted Sam.
And this guy is not here.
the only reason that he's not on this list is because I don't trust you.
How much time do we have left?
It is 2:32.
So can we go through? Let's go through some
Can
discards.
I read my predictions really quick?
Yeah, I'll give you guys just a couple more minutes. We got another live panel coming up, but I'll give you guys about 5 more minutes if that's okay.
All right.
Thank you.
This is what I predicted 2 weeks ago. Christine, The Thing, The Shining Society, Lost Boys, American Wolf in London, Dream Warriors, The Beyond, The Fly, Night of the Creeps, Chopping Mall, Jason Lives, and Evil Dead 2.
Wow.
Pretty
All
good.
but one.
He knows me really well. You have
Those are
almost all my
blameless.
picks there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Discards?
Yeah, I had the original Nightmare on Elm Street in my discard, which that's the one that should have made the list. I have Fright Night.
Fright Nights.
Yeah. I also have Halloween 3, which is the Halloween that should have
The best Halloween.
made the list.
How is it the 3 of us agree on that, but Halloween 4 is still the one that made the list?
And then I also had American Werewolf in London in my hand. So
Mine, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, one of the greatest 80s, 50s nostalgia movies. Just so
Why
great.
isn't that on here instead of Night of the Creeps?
I don't know. It was between Night of the Creeps, The Blob, and Killer Clowns.
Sam, I don't mean to interject, but I get it. That's how 6th Day got picked.
Right, yeah. The Blob, of course, and then Ghostbusters, because Ghostbusters was like my gateway into horror. It's amazing.
I wrote on The Blob was my other one. I'll just go through others. I had Come and See, which is not really a horror movie, it's a war movie. Hellraiser 2, The Fly, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Halloween 3, Santa Sangra, which is like this Argentinian horror movie, which is incredible. Possession, starring Sam Neill.
Yeah.
Invaders from Mars, which is another Toby Hooper movie. We don't really have any kids movies out here, I don't think, and I really wanted to play Invaders from Mars, which, whatever, go watch that. And then I had Return of the Living Dead, which I don't really care for, but I really feel like it encapsulates the 80s very well.
Oh, Monster Squad is one I believe.
Oh yeah, Monster Squad is
Even
so
though I
good.
know that Blake is not a.
So
That's
there's a couple like Monster Squad. I think Lost Boys at least covers that. I had Return of the Living Dead, which is my favorite zombie movie of this decade. My Bloody Valentine.
Oh, I almost had that one.
One of my favorite slashers of this decade.
Great Canadian
good.
horror.
The gore cut is amazing.
I let Blake, since Blake had 2 Italian films towards the bottom, I left mine off, which was The Beyond. We are missing some Fulci on this list, but even more so, we're missing some Freddy Damn Krueger on this list. Dream Warriors should be.
Yeah, we're gonna hear about no Freddy on this list.
Yeah, I trusted Sam at number 2 too much because I was debating.
You know I'm a Stephen King nerd.
No,
Yeah.
but I also
no
know
way
you
it's
do like
ridiculous.
Freddy.
I do. I love Freddy.
Send all angry emails to backlot605@gmail.com. And any compliments to
But yeah, I was expecting Freddy in the top 5, and I should have taken Werewolf, I guess, off and put Freddy there.
All right. Just to wrap this up, again, just to remind yourself, this is the final episode of the Killer Countdown. However, I figure I'd give you guys a couple minutes here to discuss what your plans are for your follow-up of sorts.
Yeah, this is the final Killer Countdown. I mean, there's probably not another list that we could top besides doing Greatest Ever, and that's, I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Yeah, but what we're doing, we're ending the Killer Countdown. We are starting a new horror podcast called Slashlat 605. Get it? Slash. That was Sam's name that he came up with. We dug it. Definitely keeps in with our overall tone of what we're going for. Basically, that'll be more of just an overall discussion show. We'll have a main topic for the week.
Some cool guests.
Yeah, hopefully some cool guests. We'll get Andy on to talk some more Sleepaway Camp. And some Lucio Fulci. But yeah, that's our brand new show that we'll be starting here at the end of the month. The first episode will be our 3 hosts, myself, Blake, and Sam, doing our horror all-nighter. So we're each pitching a horror all-nighter. So going from movies we'd like to show back to back with trailers in between or short films, anything like that. So just basically we'll give you an overall thought of, if you don't already know us, what our thought process is with horror. And yeah, again, Slashlat 605 launching the 30th of this month, so right before Halloween.
All right, awesome. Well, with that in mind, we'll wrap this episode up. Once again, thank you to Travis Nye and Spellbound Magic Shop for once again letting us hang out here and letting us do our thing. Thank you very much for that. Thanks to SuperCon and the man Charlie Eccles, who's listening in on this right now. Thanks for letting us partake in this once again. You're the man, Charlie. Yeah, and I think that's all. Any other closing comments?
Plug Fat Dude Digs Flicks.
Oh, yeah. You can find all things Fat Dude Digs Flicks on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also find the podcast on Spotify, Stitcher Radio, Apple Podcast, anywhere your pods can be caught. I have a new episode of Let's Talk About dropping on Tuesday, featuring Roseanne Hoffman, and we will be talking about the Italian film Cinema Paradiso, which is way classier than people getting stabbed in the eye. Yeah, follow all things Fat Dude Digs Flicks on social media. Enjoy what I'm putting out there into the world.
And then I'll quickly plug Backlot's stuff and where you can find us, backlot605.com, and you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Backlot605. And then we're on anything Andy is streaming on. We're on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Amazon, and on YouTube as well. And yeah, you can. Our next series that we are doing for the month of October is Clive Barker movies. And so I think we will be talking about a little Hellraiser at the end of the month with Mr. Andy Heller.
Cool, it's me.
Yes. So Andy will definitely have a longer discussion on that at the end of the month. But yeah, we're kicking Clive Barker month off here this week. Our first episode will be Candyman with Sam Lentz.
Which is also the 100th episode.
Yes.
Oh, dang. I didn't know. That's an honor.
Pressure.
Oh, my gosh.
Pressure.
Bring your A game.
No hot takes on that one, Sam.
No hot takes. I love
Oh, and one more thing. We do have a Patreon. So go ahead. If you want to help us out with the show, go subscribe to our Patreon, become a Patreon member. We have $1, $3, and $5 tiers. Just go check it out, patreon.com/backlot605, and you can see what you can get with all those. We have some exciting perks with those. I think they're pretty cool. So yeah, go check us out there.
All right, well, that'll do it. So on behalf of Casey Kilderman and Blake Ginnathan and Sam Lentz and Andy Heller, I'm Derek Vrink. Thank you for tuning in today on SuperCon Online. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye. Bye.
Shopping mall.
Thank you guys for being a part of this. Again, this is Charlie Eccles. We will be back. The next live panel that we have coming up is with Thomas Hanna from Much Props on YouTube. Make sure to check that out. Again, thank you to the Backlot boys. There's no secret that I've got a man crush on 4 out of the 5 of you. So I'm very happy.
It's not me. I don't know.
Number one.
I'll let you guys fight that one out. But thank you guys for being a part of it. We will talk to you guys soon. Maybe someday we'll talk like burritos and body slams or something like that. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie.
Woo!